I later discovered that half of my family, the people I grew up believing were simply eccentric, carried a secret so heavy it felt unreal. You tell yourself no one could hide something like that for so long. Imagine your mother carrying that truth in silence for decades. 50 years. My father never knew. No one ever knew. Because if she had told him, I don't think he would have married her. At least, that's how it feels looking back. He earned 2 Academy Awards, and somehow his reputation has only grown stronger with age. Nearly every older actor who ever gave me advice told me the same thing. Quit while you're ahead. At 90, barely able to walk, he announced to the world that Hollywood had seen the last of him. It's strangely self-defeating, because it's incredibly hard to make it look like you're doing nothing at all. The man who lived through the Blitz, who climbed from poverty to knighthood, who gave us Alfie, Get Carter, and Alfred Pennyworth, finally admitted he was done. We always knew we were never going to be rich or famous. Not defeated by critics or audiences, but by time itself. His spine was deteriorating. Every step brought pain. The cane in his hand was no longer part of a performance. It was necessary. The Great Escaper would stand as his final appearance. His last offering to cinema before the curtain closed. I decided to focus on being the best actor I could possibly be. And that, I believed, was the end of it. He even began writing his memoirs, a book bluntly titled Don't Look Back, You'll Trip Over, as if preparing his own farewell. The industry grieved quietly. Fans accepted it reluctantly. And Michael Caine, the timeless gentleman of British film, withdrew to his countryside home to count what sunsets remained. I was never going to be Laurence Olivier or John Gielgud. I wasn't a theater titan or a classic leading man like Cary Grant. But then, in September 2024, something happened that no one anticipated. A single phone call that shattered his retirement and revealed a truth about Michael Caine that even he hadn't fully understood. Those moments define who I am. The tabloids had already prepared his obituary, saved and ready to publish. His IMDb page carried the finality of someone whose last credit would never change. Even his brother Stanley had begun speaking about him in the past tense during interviews, that subtle shift that happens when someone you love starts to fade. You think of all the extraordinary things you could say, then decide not to say them. At 92, when most men live inside memory, when every movement sends his body into protest, when death hoaxes trend monthly online, each one more believable than the last, Sir Michael Caine is returning to Hollywood. The great thing about getting old is that there's no alternative. The only other option is death, so you might as well stay cheerful. Not for a cameo. Not for a voice role from the safety of a recording booth. Not for a gentle goodbye designed to fade quietly into obscurity. But for a full-scale action film demanding more than his failing body should give. You must behave. You mustn't act. You have to react. And you have to listen. Insurance paperwork alone required 17 signatures. A medical examination lasted 4 hours. The real question isn't why he's doing it, but what force could possibly pull a legend back from the edge of goodbye? What truth is he still trying to prove? And to whom? The announcement struck like thunder on a clear day. October 2023. The Great Escaper premiered to the strongest reviews of his career. It looks very expensive. Critics called it flawless. A masterclass. The perfect farewell. He sat in his study, surrounded by 2 Oscars, 3 Golden Globes, and a BAFTA fellowship, reading praise that should have brought peace. Instead, he felt something else entirely. What do I have to do to beat these reviews? He asked his wife, Shakira. And in that question lived the answer. He wasn't trying to beat them. He was trying to escape them. 2 days later, he made it official. I'm 90 now and I can't walk properly, he told the BBC. I've had a great career, but I'm finished. My life turned out better than anything my father could have imagined. Better than anything I ever dreamed myself. Medical reports were harsher than headlines dared to be. Spinal stenosis had narrowed his backbone into a cage. Every movement sent shocks through his nerves. A fall in 2018 shattered more than bone. It destroyed the illusion that determination could overpower flesh. His doctors were blunt in that distinctly British way, polite and devastating at once. When you reach that moment, do you become a coward? Do you run? The condition was irreversible, degenerative, only worsening. Every role now required calculating not lines, but survival. Insurance clauses grew heavier. Studios whispered about liability. And the phone that had rung for 70 years went silent. That silence wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating. For a man who had worked since 14, who had made over 160 films, who measured life in productions rather than years, retirement felt less like rest and more like erasure. I suffer from severe claustrophobia now. You can't shut a door on me anywhere. He tried to accept it, told himself it was earned. He wrote in his study, tended his garden, watched old films where a younger version of himself moved freely, fought without pain, stood without calculating the distance to the nearest chair. Some mornings he reached for scripts that didn't exist, rehearsed lines for films that would never be made, studied his reflection as if preparing for a role that had been permanently recast. Shakira watched this slow unraveling with the understanding of someone who had already saved him once. She pulled him back from 2 bottles of vodka a day in the 70s, stood by him through the deaths of friends like Sean Connery, Roger Moore, and Terrence Stamp. She had seen him cry only 3 times in 50 years. When his mother died, when he held his first grandchild, and when his body finally betrayed him and he couldn't climb the stairs alone. This was different. This wasn't grief or addiction or failure. This was the torture of a performer without a stage. A storyteller with no stories left to tell. A man defined by motion rendered still. I've got nothing to do. If nobody gives me a script I truly want, then I'm retired. The house felt larger without purpose. Days stretched without call sheets. Silence grew louder without lines to memorize. You're still a lion, she whispered on nights pain kept him awake. She made his favorite breakfast, the same one his mother used to make, pretending not to notice when he ate only half. You didn't fall in love with her looks, did you? No, that's it. Then I fell in love with her, and stayed there for the rest of my life. She played Sinatra records and danced alone until he smiled. Neither of them knew how soon the phone would ring with an offer that would change everything. That would test every promise she made to protect him. That would prove whether a lion could still roar when winter had already arrived. To understand why Michael Caine cannot truly retire, you must understand the secret that shaped his life. A revelation so devastating that when he learned it at 60, it rewrote everything he believed about family, loyalty, and love. We wanted him to be the opposite of Bond. The call came from a newspaper reporter in 1992, the kind of call most celebrities avoid. But something made him listen. Did you know about your half-brother, David? The words detonated. For 50 years, his mother, Ellen, lived a double life. Every week, rain or war, she said she was going shopping. She dressed carefully and disappeared for hours, returning with nothing. She wasn't shopping. She was visiting her firstborn son, David, born with severe epilepsy and mental disabilities, hidden away in Caine Hill Hospital since age 2. For half a century, she carried that burden alone. Loved a child the world told her to forget. When Michael confronted her, gently, she said, I didn't want you to feel different. I didn't want you to carry what I carried. In that moment, he learned that love sometimes means hiding your breaking heart so well even your children can't hear it crack. David died before Michael truly knew him, but the discovery reshaped every role he had ever played. Every quiet protector, every man carrying secret pain. He had been channeling his mother all along. And that is why, even at 92, he keeps going, keeps creating, keeps honoring the woman who taught him that sometimes the greatest act of love is simply not stopping. If Ellen taught him survival, Shakira taught him how to live. When they met, he was doing neither. By 1970, success was drowning him. 2 bottles of vodka a day. Parties that never ended because silence waited on the other side. He would have been dead within 6 months, he later admitted. Then one night, alone, drunk, a coffee commercial appeared on television. A woman holding a cup with effortless grace. He said aloud, I'm going to marry that woman. And for the first time in years, he was sober in certainty. Her name was Shakira Bakshi. She said no 12 times. On the 13th call, she said yes. It took her 8 minutes to fall in love with me, he jokes. 2 hours, really. But I knew in 8 minutes I'd found my reason to stop dying. She didn't save him with ultimatums. She saved him by seeing the frightened boy beneath the fame. The vodka disappeared because he wanted to remember her clearly. I have complete control over everything I do. The parties ended because home mattered more. She became his anchor, his proof that quiet love could still be fierce. 52 years later, when asked how he survived when others didn't, he answers with one word, Shakira. You must listen to what the other person is saying, even if you already know the words. The call that shattered his retirement came from an unlikely place. Vin Diesel. Not Nolan. Not a British director, but a devoted fan who refused to accept that his hero was finished. The offer was The Last Witch Hunter 2. A physically demanding sequel no 92-year-old body should attempt. Agents said no. Doctors said no. Even Shakira hesitated. But something in Diesel's voice, I need you, changed everything. This isn't about money. With 60 million in the bank, he needs nothing. It isn't about glory. 2 Oscars and a knighthood already wrote that chapter. It isn't about proving he still can, because he isn't sure he can. It's about purpose. About refusing to become past tense while your heart still beats. About choosing to roar instead of fading quietly. Preparation is brutal. Medication replaces mornings. Pain never leaves. Physical therapists teach him how to hide weakness from the camera. We're not fighting age, they say. We're negotiating with it. And yet, when cameras roll, everyone on set knows they're witnessing something sacred. A man refusing to let time write his final scene. Perhaps the greatest role Michael Caine has ever played is himself. And as he prepares for what may be his last film, approaching it like his first, he leaves us with one final lesson. Not about fame, not about acting, but about the quiet rebellion of continuing to dream when the world insists you should stop. He'll be 93 when the film releases. Logic says it's madness. But Michael Caine has never listened to logic. He listens to the voice that says, one more time, and maybe that is the greatest performance of all.